Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Mazda CX-5, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com Class 3 2-inch trailer hitch receiver. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and make sure that this hitch will work for you. So when it comes to the CX-5, you know, people use these SUVs to do a ton of different things. You know, they're really popular, get people out here putting on bike racks when they're trying to go riding. Maybe throwing on a cargo carrier when they're going on a trip, and even pulling some trailers around, you know. So if it were me and I was looking for a hitch that I would want to put on my Mazda, I'd want one that could handle just about anything you want to throw at it, and that's exactly what this one is going to do. Not to mention as well, I would probably think to myself, you know, I want something that looks good, right? These cars are actually really sporty looking. They had some nice lines, and so I wouldn't want, you know, a giant hitch hanging down here, taking up a bunch of space and looking ugly. And that's not the case at all with this one. Honestly, like I said in previous videos, this would probably be my top pick. I think it looks the best. It's going to be completely hidden for the most part. You'll be able to see the receiver tube opening, but it does have this matte black finish, and I think it really does a good job of kind of matching our bottom bumper here, and really puts off a factory type appearance. So with this being a Class 3 hitch, it's going to have that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, so really common size, ton of different things are going to work out with it. At the end, there will be a reinforced collar for a little bit of extra support, and it is going to use that standard 5/8 pin and clip. Keep in mind though, pin and clip don't come with the hitch. If you need one, not really a big deal, you can grab it right here at eTrailer. And we're going to have loop style safety chain openings, which are pretty thick actually and relatively large, and should allow you to use just about any size hook that your trailer might have. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have some pretty high numbers actually. Maximum gross tongue weight rating is going to be 600 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. So you'll be able to use, you know, pretty much any size bike rack or cargo carrier that you'd want to, for example. As far as the hitch's maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, that's going to be 4,000 pounds, and that's going to be the amount of weight that is pulling on the hitch. So the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. I do always like to recommend, though, it's never a bad idea just to grab your owner's manual. That way you can make sure your Mazda can pull that much weight safely. And with all that in mind, you know, if you are going to be pulling a trailer around, you're going to want the lights to work on it. That way people around you know what's going on, and you'll be safe and legal. And to accomplish that, you can always grab some trailer wiring. I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you can use these to help figure out which hitch mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 13 inches. So if you do plan on pulling a trailer around, chances are pretty good you're going to need to get a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 3.5 inches. And you can use that measurement to figure out exactly if any of those folding accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Mazda. So I do want to address one of the big questions that we get asked a lot, and that is kind of just comparing, you know, all the hitches to each other and what's the differences and things like that. In terms of appearance, they're all going to be very similar. You know, for the most part, they're all going to be hidden. You're just going to see that receiver tube opening. And it's really just going to kind of boil down to the style you like the best or the finish. Like I said before, I like this one the best, but, you know, that's just my opinion. There is a difference with the draw tight, the Class 3 draw tight. It has a little bit higher weight capacities. So if you're someone that's really planning on using your SUV to do a lot of towing, kind of push it a little bit, you know, it might put your mind at ease a little bit more knowing you have a hitch that's rated to handle a little bit more weight. But, you know, it's just going to depend on what you're doing and what your personal taste is and what hitch you like the best. So really can't go wrong with any of them, to be honest with you. Other than that, though, you know, as far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad. Everything's relatively easy to get to. Really shouldn't have to, you know, really shouldn't run into too many snags or anything like that. So as long as you stay focused, I really shouldn't give you too many issues. But speaking of that, why don't we go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here underneath the back of our Mazda. And what we're going to need to do is lower the exhaust on some and give us some room to work. So prior to doing that, I like to take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way we can kind of control how fast and how far we let our exhaust come down. So to get the exhaust down, we're going to have a total of 4 rubber isolator hangers, so 2 on each side. One there, one there. Obviously the other side of our vehicles could be set up the exact same way, but to get these off, you can spray them down with some lubricant, soapy water, or whatever you got. And we're going to take a pry bar, and we need to pry one end of the hanger off. Usually really doesn't matter what end you go with, whichever one's easier. So I'll just continue to kind of work this off here, and usually once you get one of them off, the other ones get easier, you know, as everything loosens up and whatnot. Kind of swing this up and out of the way. And do the same thing for other remaining hangers. Once you have all the hangers removed, you can go ahead and loosen up the strap and let the exhaust come down a little ways. Once we have the exhaust lowered, now we can move right underneath the edge of our bumper here. We're going to have this piece of plastic that will interfere with the hitch, so we're going to remove it. Pretty straightforward. There's a push pin fastener like this on each side of it. Just use a flathead to kind of pry it out. And then up in here, this opening, there's a little tab you can kind of pry on and lower it down. So have a better look at it there. I was just kind of pulling out on it. I'll get this out of the way. Probably not going to be reinstalling it. I believe it looks like it's not going to fit once our hitch is up there. Not really a big deal though. With that little piece out of the way, I want to take out a couple of fasteners too that kind of help secure our bottom of our bumper. And I'm doing this so we have a little more space when we go to put the hitch up. So pry that one out as well as this one. And then that'll let us kind of flex our bumper, hopefully give us a little bit of extra space to get the hitch up there. Now if you look on the side of our frame rail, we're going to have a wire that runs through there and is attached to it. We just need to kind of pop that off. That way it doesn't interfere with the hitch. So you can just take a flathead screwdriver, kind of work it behind it there. And pry it out. And if you look, we're going to have 2 attachment points. One of them will be up here towards the back of our vehicle. There'll probably be a piece of tape on it. So I'm just going to use a scraper to get that tape removed. And if you happen to have any extra sealer, this gray stuff that's on the side here, while you're at it, go ahead and scrape that off too. That way it doesn't interfere with getting the hitch up. Thankfully it comes off pretty easy, so. The other attachment point is going to be back here. So there's another piece of tape. Scrape that off. And again, any extra sealer that might be in the way, let's go ahead and get that removed. With this side done, we're going to go ahead and repeat that same process over on the other side. So after kind of looking a little bit harder, it looks like we might need just a little bit extra room where our wire comes down here to get the hitch up. So I'm just going to pop out the other two. And if you have a trim tool like this one, it makes it easier to get these out. So I'm just going to pry these couple out, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of our vehicle. And matter of fact, from this point on, anything we do to this side, we'll also do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. So now we can go over our attachment points and the hardware we're going to use. So for this one back here, it's going to be a weld nut actually. So there's a nut welded to the inside of the frame, it threads on it. And you're going to use your bolt and a conical tooth washer. Make sure that the teeth on the washer are going to face this way towards the hitch. So when your hitch is up there, you're simply just going to thread that in. Even though these holes are covered, it's not a bad idea. You know, if there's some junk built up in there, you can spray in some penetrating oil, take a tube brush like this, and clean those threads out. For the attachment point back here, chances are pretty good. Yours will be set up the same way ours is, with just an empty hole. Some cases you might have a weld nut in there. If you do, just use that same hardware combination that we just talked about for the hole closest to the front. But like I said, chances are pretty good. Yours will be set up the same way ours is. And if that's the case, what you're going to do is take a fish wire, take the coiled end of it, and push it through until it comes out of that larger hole. Then you can take the carriage bolt and a spacer block and thread it onto the fish wire and feed the hardware up into the frame. What you want to do is pull out on it, make sure it comes out good and everything. And since our hitch is going to come up here on the side, we don't want this to be in the way. So I'm just going to push that barely back into the frame rail. That way it don't interfere with the hitch. Once the hitch is up there, then we can pull on the wire and put the nut on. Now we could grab our hitch, and what you want to do is take the included flat washers, and I just took some packing tape and taped them to the side of our hitch here. And you know, you obviously want them to line up with the holes in the hitch. And this is going to make it really, or much easier having them in place, being able to just kind of lift the hitch up and get our bolts going. Obviously, when you tape them, you want to use something to poke a hole through there so the bolt and everything can go through there. But you're going to tape these on all 4 attachment points. Now with the next set of hands, you can get our hitch raised into position. So we're going to want to kind of go up and over the exhaust, take your fish wire, run it through like this on the hitch, and it's going to be kind of tight here, so what we're going to need to do is kind of get our exhaust pulled down, kind of work our fascia out a little ways. And once we have it lined up, should be able to pull on our fish wire, and the weight of the hitch jamming on that bolt should keep it up in this position. Once you do have it like that though, you can remove the pull wire and take a flange nut and get that started hand tight. So once we get all of our hardware in place and hand tight, we come back with a 19mm or 3/4 inch socket and snug everything down. I do just want to give a quick pointer. I was kind of just looking at this. If you don't have your rubber hanger attached to this top one, probably be a good idea to do that before you put the hitch up, because just looking at the clearance here, it might be really difficult to get that back on. Looks like it's possible, but you know, it might save you a little frustration just having it on like this in the first place. So I just wanted to, something I noticed and just wanted to point that out. But once all of our hardware is in place and snug down, you want to make sure to come back with a torque wrench and tighten it all to the amount specified in the instructions. If you don't have a torque wrench, you can grab one here at eTrailer. A lot of times go to your local auto parts store and they'll have one there available you can rent. Once your hitch is torqued down, you can take that wiring that we kind of brought down and snap that back into position. The one here on the side, our hitch is obviously covering that hole where we would snap it in. They give you some zip ties though, so you can just simply zip tie that wire against the side plate of your hitch to keep it up and out of the way. With that done, now we can raise our exhaust back into position, so helps to lubricate the hangers again. And this time we're just gonna get everything pushed back in by hand. Once your exhaust is supporting itself, you can go ahead and remove our strip. And last but not least, we can come back here to where we pulled out these push pins and get those reinstalled. But with that done, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com Class 3 trailer hitch receiver on our 2022 Mazda CX-5.